The in-class presentation is separate from your video presentation. Your video presentation is going to communicate the ideas in your concept map. It's basically to give people two choices. They can read your concept map or they can watch your presentation video, depending on which way they feel most comfortable taking in new information. The in-class presentation is where you're going to present in front of the class, and my hope is by the end of this process that everybody in the class will have a semi-firm grasp of every concept that has been assigned. And the in-class presentation involves a couple of components. If we look inside of our student folder, and we look inside the foundations folder, that's chapter 1 basically, or first section, you can see here the in-class presentation rubric, and if I open that up, we can see the content has certain criteria, which is basically if it communicates what is presented in your, or the content of your concept map. And then we have our presentation. And the rubric here is that there are no filler words, or filler words are kept to a minimum. And for most people, we use filler words to communicate an idea. And that idea is that I am thinking about something. And so when I'm thinking about something, there's a word associated with that. And that word is so. And although that is something that is still going on in my head, even though I'm not saying and so as I'm speaking right now, I am consciously preventing myself from using those words because nobody wants to hear those words as they are being given information. And that both people speak this equal amount of time. Visual aids are used throughout, and if you have a PowerPoint component with a sufficient amount of visual aids, then you should be able to knock that criteria out without any problems. The last criteria is the activity, and so this is something that you probably are not comfortable with. Maybe you haven't been asked to do this in the past, but what teachers do is that we create a lesson, and we try to associate an activity with the lesson so that it could drive the idea home, so that everybody understands what's going on, even those who know the concept previously and they're just sitting there nodding their head, yes, I already know this, to those who have never seen that idea before in the past and they're still scratching their heads at the end of your presentation. And so the two criteria here are that it involves every student performing a task, and that it asks students to get out of their seat. And so these two can be combined into one, and you might be thinking to yourself, how can I get that done? I have no idea what that means. I've never seen that in action. And easy an example for me to communicate to you guys is the idea, there's a lesson here on binary numbers that I use sometimes. And what is a binary number? Well, binary is a system of representing numbers using only two digits, 1 and 0. And a binary number system is a number system that involves only ones and zeros. And this number here is a 6-digit binary number. And the binary number starts here and moves its way to the left. This number here represents the 1. This digit here represents the 2. This digit here represents 4, 8, 16, 32. And if you notice, it's 2 to the 0, 2 to the 1, 2 to the 2, 2 to the 3, and so on as you move your way to the left. And so how do you read this binary number? Well, the 0 means off and the 1 means on. So what you need to do here is you need to add all of the digits that are turned on. So this number here, we would take the 2 plus the 8 plus 32, and if we add that up, it's 42, and that's what this binary number represents in decimal. Okay, and so to drive this idea home, there is an activity here where you call up some students to the board. You give them each a sheet of paper, and you can tell the class that when it's black, that means the digit is 0 in binary, and when they flip it over, then the digit is a 1 in binary. And you could see here that on the cards they wrote the decimal number that each digit represents. So this number here is off 0, on 1, off 0, on 1, off 0. So it's a binary number that is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0. And if you ask the class, well, what decimal number does this represent? Well, they would all say, well, it's 2 plus 8, so that is 10. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 0 represents the binary number 10. And you can play around with this activity, and it is something that makes sure that everyone understands what's going on. And so that's what I want you to do for this activity. And so it might be a stretch for you. You might need to think about it, and you might need to get a little bit silly. You might need to ask the class to follow along with what you're doing, because it's something that's not commonly used. But that's what I want you to do for this set of activities. We're going to do 2 rounds of fundamental computer science topics, and so you're going to have to do this 2 times.